So the new Blade was almost like The Raid? Well, though mostly known for his work on X-Men 97 and Netflix's The Witcher, the former title's ex-showrunner Beau DeMayo also famously took a shot at writing Marvel Studios' troubled Blade film. That movie has been in development for years and has seen a half dozen writers come and go, including the likes of Michael Green, Nick Palazzolo, Stacey Osei-Kuffour, and Michael Starbury. At last report, Eric Pearson is penning the latest draft, and the studio has seemed to finally come up with a script they're happy with. For a while there, though, they were appearing to be floundering. In new postings on X, DeMayo confirms that's the case, and he's wondering why it has been so difficult for the studio to come up with a compelling premise. He says, take a John Wick movie, give mobsters fangs, swap Keanu for Ali, hand him a sword, not a daughter who makes him fret over swinging the hero's name. Wick cost $20 million to make it. Add $10 million for Vampire Darkhold Magic VFX. You have $30 to $40 million Marvel movie. I don't get why it's so hard. Studio's broken. He adds that in his 3 months on the project, he wrote 3 drafts and a dozen outlines for it. He then did a deep dive on X, going into the best idea he came up with. My favorite was the raid-style treatment, where Blade finds himself defending a rundown tenement of humans from Varney's vamp hordes until daylight. Took place over one night. Blade leads from tenant Jericho Drum that Varney's attacking because the female tenant, who Blade sort of fancies, has been magically impregnated with Lilith by tenants who secretly Darkhold cultists. Think 30 Days a Night meets Rosemary's Baby. Mahershala Ali and Mia Goth remain attached to star in the film, which is yet to announce a director following the exit of Yann Dimanche. Yada, yada, yada. I'll tell you, look, you can say what you want about Beau DeMayo as far as everything, the controversies and stuff he's getting. It's a totally different thing that we're talking about here right now.
Yeah.
So he tweeted out a thing about Doctor Strange the other day and talked about that, the stuff that they were working on, and that take of what was going there was better, right?
Yeah.
Totally. The way that they were going to actually play that was better. This guy, again, what he knows this world really well. I got to tell you, I love this 30, 40 million raid idea of Blade just running around the joint, fighting people until the end. And yes, I mean, this you're talking to us right now when you're like, hey, you don't need to spend $200 million, but this is the studio mindset of no, it's a Marvel movie. You got to spend $150, $200 million. And they're like, no, you don't. We do the raid with Blade, and there you go. So maybe it was an executive thing, but you hear this, and I don't know. What do you think?
No, I love the idea of the raid style approach to Blade. That's such an awesome thing. I guess if you're caught up with wanting to, and this is the thing with Marvel, right? You're caught up with wanting to connect the character now to a shared universe, and you introduce him at the end of Eternals, at least the voice, and you go, okay, now we've got to adhere to that, and we got to get Jon Snow involved, Kit Harington involved, and his character, Black Knight. Okay, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to work this all out? Okay, we're bringing Mia Goth. All right, Mahershala. Okay, how are we going to make it? Oh, I can't break it. All right, multiple people. All right, y'all take stabs at it. Y'all write. No, none of this really works. And at the end of the day, you're going to end up where you should have started, which is keep it simple, stupid, and just do something fun to introduce us back into the world of Blade. And then later, or at the post-credit scene, or down the road, connect him up into a larger universe and a story you want to tell. So to me, I think that's the approach here they got to take with Blade. We all love Wesley Snipes. Many of the fans who watch the show, who are going to watch this film, still rewatch the original Blade and Blade 2 and a little less Blade Trinity, but they all rewatch it and have fun. The reaction to Blade, Wesley Snipes showing up in Deadpool and Wolverine should tell you there is just an excitement to see Blade back. Stop overthinking it. Do it really simply and do it for a smaller budget and let the people have fun with it. And then we'll worry about connecting it up into the larger MCU. So yeah, I love all these ideas, but let me say this, it's real easy to come up with an idea. It's not so easy to come up with a script to support
or to execute the idea.
Or to execute that.
100%. Yeah, of course. But it doesn't change the fact that, look, as I said, when you're mentioning this kind of thing to me, you're gonna get me. You're gonna get me on board because it's like, oh yeah, he's 100% right. It's like, you don't need to spend this kind of money, especially on a Blade movie. You didn't do it for the original. You could do this. You could dumb it down, and you can not dumb it down. That's a stupid. That's not. It's simplified. You can actually make it better, and actually the reverse of dumbing it down. Actually put more depth into the character and the idea of why he wants to do it, and you could do something along those lines. It makes so much more sense to do it that way. And it says, we've mentioned 1,000 times over, the A24 Terminator style version. You know, it's like. Yeah. I really, really want to get like a studio executive on here to ask that question of like, because let's say, me and you, we own the rights to using, I don't know, Jurassic World, right?
Sure.
So if we own the rights to that movie and we know that people are going to see a Jurassic World movie, we know it. Why are we spending $200 million on it? Why are we doing that? What if we know that we can spend, as I'm going to say, I come into the office today and I say, John, listen, I'm going to spend, I think I want to spend $40 million on this movie. We're going to make the dinosaurs look pretty cool, but we're going to do it kind of more like horror style. And we're going to get one really good actor, pay them $5 million or whatever it is, an up and coming one, and then put all the really good actors who are up and coming who don't cost that much around them. Mm-hmm. But it's true, and we'll spend $100 million on marketing on that one. So that's where that's where the big or whatever the amount of marketing we'll spend a good amount of money on marketing because it's Jurassic World. It needs the marketing. Same thing with this Blade movie. It's what are you spending $200 million on a Blade movie? You don't need to. It's a gritty vampire film.
You're putting pressure on the film. You know what I'm saying? You're putting pressure on the film by putting it at 200. You're like, well, it better make a certain amount of money. And what was the big thing last week with Destin Daniel Cretton? He's coming in now to direct Spider-Man 4, but people have been clamoring for a Shang-Chi sequel, right? But Shang-Chi only made $420 million off a $200 million budget, or $225 million budget. And I get it. It was during COVID. I understand that. But still, it's only $420 million. Spider-Man No Way Home made over $1 billion during COVID as well. So it was a matter of that situation. And so but if you had made Shang-Chi for like $80 million and it made $400 million, you'd be rushing to do a sequel. And that's the situation that they find themselves in constantly with Marvel is they do the budget so high that the film has to work so hard.
Shang-Chi's a great example because Shang-Chi, you cut that. I mean, I bet you in the same way that Indiana Jones, the last Indiana Jones is another example of the point I'm going to make here is that the third act is probably where the majority of the budget came from both of those movies. Yeah. The third act where you didn't it was the third act of Indiana Jones was ridiculous. How much money they spent on that. It was ridiculous how much money they spent. That is something that when you hear these comments of what Blade could be, and also I think there's someone else who's tweeting me out about what's the dude's name? Michael Waldron? Is that who wrote apparently? And he's getting involved now. People starting to turn on him a little bit now and saying that maybe he didn't really necessarily. I mean, not that he didn't write Loki, but the fact that maybe he was like a one-hit wonder because the other stuff he's been involved with hasn't been so good. So people aren't really excited about him doing things now. It's just amazing how it really is how it goes down. Like people will turn on you real quick unless you got something else that's going to deliver.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was watching a TikTok over the weekend, and it was Craig Ferguson interviewing Steve Guttenberg, the great Steve Guttenberg.
Oh, he's the best. He's the best.
It's awesome. And you're the one that got me to follow him on Instagram. He's a great guy. But I saw this interview on TikTok, and he said, this is the deal you have to understand. And he said, Paul Newman taught him this lesson, 5 lessons of Hollywood. Who is Steve Guttenberg? Get me Steve Guttenberg. I got to get a young Steve Guttenberg.
Yeah.
Get me someone like Steve Guttenberg, a little bit older, and then all the way back to who is Steve Guttenberg. That's the situation you deal with here in Hollywood, and Waldron is going through that now. Who is Michael Waldron? Oh, great, get him. I needed someone like this. Yeah. Oh, someone like who is Michael Waldron? Why do we want him again? And so it's just that's the cycle now, and it just goes way faster than it used to. It used to take years to get to the who is this, and now it's like within a year or two.
There's just so much stuff to go through, get past. So. Anyway, I ask you guys, what do you think? Do you think that this is something that they're going to go away from? And maybe it was the studios getting their hands in it again and messing up because we keep hearing how Blade was falling apart. Maybe it shouldn't have. Maybe that's one of the main things. Maybe Blade shouldn't have fallen apart. And maybe that there's just too many people meddling in the same way that Sony was meddling with the Spider-Man thing to make it not street level. So put your comments in there. Very, very curious to hear what y'all think about this because it's it ain't going away. It's not going away. There's going to be a lot of talk here for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's.